May the 4th be with you. These first 4 days of May have been a goldmine of Star Wars content. Between the series finale of Bad Batch, The Phantom Menace re-releasing in theaters, and more animated content coming in the form of Tales of the Empire, Star Wars fans are eating good right now. In terms of gaming, it's going to be some time before we get the next banger with Star Wars Outlaws, which I'm very excited about. To hold myself over in the meantime, I thought it would be fun to platinum a few Star Wars games for the 4th. The problem is, which ones? Maybe the recent Battlefront games? Okay, what about the Jedi games? Force Unleashed? Bruh. Okay, what about Squadrons? Dang, Theric. Well, even with some of the bigger Star Wars games platinumed, there are still a few games set in that galaxy far, far away that I can go for. A couple of them were even re-released not too long ago. In today's Star Wars-filled video, I will platinum 3, technically 4, Star Wars games. Let's begin with one that is a bit older but still holds up today. The first game I want to tackle is Star Wars Dark Forces Remaster. Released at the tail end of February, I was pretty excited to relive one of the classics on modern consoles. I already owned this game on PC from a humble bundle deal I got years ago, but only made it through the first level back in the day. The remaster was appealing and probably the most convenient way to play this game today, so I bought it the moment it dropped. The platinum for Dark Forces is very, very easy. All I am required to do is simply play the story. This game starts at a pivotal moment in Star Wars history where Kyle Katarn just casually steals the Death Star plans.
This is too easy. Now to get to my ship.
From here, the main plot revolves around uncovering the Empire's recently deployed Dark Troopers. It's an interesting story that takes place during a relatively unexplored part of the Star Wars mythos, at least in canon. There are plenty of familiar faces from Darth Vader, Mon Mothma, Crix Madine, and even Boba Fett, who has a surprisingly easy boss fight. This takes me to the main thrust of Dark Forces, which is the gameplay. Made during a time when all first-person shooters were dubbed Doom clones, you make your way through each level blasting everything that stands in your way. This ranges from stormtroopers, Imperial officers, probe droids, Trandoshans, Gamorreans, and a whole lot more. Mini-bosses will also stand in your way, like different phases of Dark Troopers and nightmare fuel in the form of the Kel Dragon. Across the game's 14 missions, I was unlocking trophies left and right for completing objectives like entering a sewer, picking up a key code, blowing up a robotics facility, finding the ISO building, and rescuing my companion, Jan Ors, just to name a few. I didn't want to go too in-depth with this one simply because it just involves me going through the story, which is relatively simple. The only other trophy type I would say is in the game are missable ones, but even then, I would consider that a stretch. The trophies that I would say are missable are for not shooting a mouse droid you find throughout many levels, or finding some items that will help you get through certain sections like the infrared goggles or ice cleats. It took me roughly 6 hours to unlock the platinum, which I thought was a perfect length. The game never dragged or felt incredibly short to me. With that in mind though, its $30 price point may raise some eyebrows, but I didn't find it to be that bad. Overall, this is a very easy platinum that I would recommend to any hardcore Star Wars fan or someone who wants to revisit the classics. While the remaster was a fun and convenient way to play Dark Forces, I couldn't help but wonder what this game would look like if it was remade from the ground up. Imagine a Dark Forces game with the graphics of the recent Battlefront or Jedi games. That's not even mentioning all the lore that has been introduced in the time since. Now that would be something to get excited about. With it being the 25th anniversary of The Phantom Menace, I figured this would be a perfect time to play something set in the prequel era. However, this wasn't the original plan. When I was brainstorming the games I wanted to play for this video, Jedi Academy was supposed to take this spot. After looking at the trophy list and seeing some of the multiplayer trophies the game has, I thought it would be best to save this for another day. That's when I stumbled upon Episode 1 Racer and figured it would be a quick and fun platinum to go through. This was my first time playing Racer, as I wasn't even born when it released, so it was fun experiencing this game for the first time. While the graphics are definitely of the time, which is to be expected, I thought this was a great port of a classic Star Wars game. The only thing I would have liked is a bit more explanation of the controls and some of the game's mechanics before going in. Getting into the thick of things, within 10 minutes of starting the game, I unlocked 9 trophies from the first 2 races. When the race started, I completed a boost start to get the jump on my opponents. And while I was messing around with the controls, I performed a taunt. After completing my first lap with a new record,
It's a new lap record!
I quickly learned how to perform a boost. Gaining some speed, I used my boost to reach 700 miles per hour, completing my first race in first place.
It's a new lap record!
With a healthy supply of Trugets for my first win, I explored Watto's shop and purchased my first upgrade. As I progressed through the amateur pod racing circuit, I unlocked different racers that I could use in subsequent races, like Tomito Pagales, Aldar Beto, and Fudge Sang. Switching from Anakin to one of the faster racers, I was able to reach 1,000 miles per hour, and eventually completed the amateur pod racing circuit. Before starting the next one, I used the Trugets I had to fully max out my pit droid crew.
What? You think you gonna beat Sebulba with that pod racer of yours?
And then switched back to Anakin for one trophy in particular where I had to repair my engines from warning to stable. This is a mechanic I knew nothing about until I looked it up, and it became essential moving forward. As Annie, I did a boost until one of the engines caught on fire and held R1 to repair the engines. Back in the race, I did another taunt while I was in the middle of a boost. Throughout this set of races, I unlocked Bullseye Navior, along with Juan Sandage, before wrapping up the semi-pro pod racing circuit. So far throughout this game, I have been doing pretty well. I was getting first place consistently except for one of the shorter races that I got a little cocky on. However, this circuit really stumped me. Races started to get tedious as they took place on the same map, but with different routes. Death Row's Revenge on Ordabana was the first map that truly kicked my ass. Odie Mandrill had an incredibly fast pod racer, so one mistake and I was guaranteed to be set back for the rest of the race. Even when I was doing really well, this particular turn at the end of the lap could set me back as well. When I played as Mars Go, I was able to regain my speed fast enough to boost over this gap, but when I switched to Bull's Roar for extra speed, I missed this jump every single time. I was starting to lose it until I looked up a guide and learned how to pitch my pod racer up, giving me more airtime. Once I figured this out, I locked in and finished this race, along with the subsequent ones, unlocking Sebulba, and wrapping up the Galactic pod racing circuit. This is technically the end of the game, but there is another circuit to complete, as well as a few more miscellaneous trophies. I switched over to Sebulba, who has a couple of trophies tied to him. He's unique in that he doesn't come with a taunt, but rather a weapon to throw off his opponents. With the press of triangle, fire shoots from one of the engines, which got me a trophy after I hit 10 opponents with it. I also secured first place with Sebulba, and continued to use him throughout the rest of this circuit. It was pretty straightforward compared to the last one until I came back to Ordabana for the Abyss. At the start of this race, there's a top and bottom row, and if you happen to fall to the bottom, consider this race over as there is no way of catching back up. It took a few tries, but once I nailed this and finished the subsequent races, I unlocked Slide Paramita, Bazi Baranta, and completed the Invitational Pod Racing Circuit with a first place win on every race in the game. I only had a couple more things to do before finishing up. With all the races completed and thousands of Trugits on me, I purchased all the best upgrades for my pod racer. I bought a few throughout the game, but they were very pricey, so I waited until I finished to take care of this. I just bought these straight up because I did not understand how the junkyard worked at the time. It was after unlocking this trophy where it finally clicked, and I wish I had figured things out sooner. Something else I did not know I could do for a while was increase the amount of Trugits I earned for completing a race. Luckily, I learned this early enough, so by the time I finished the game, I had enough Trugits to purchase all the best upgrades.
They come here, they mess up my store. Hey!
The very last thing I did was complete a mirrored match, which unlocks after getting first place in all races. With all the upgrades made, I cruised through the very first track with ease. After coming in first, I completed the match, unlocking the platinum for episode 1 racing. Before hopping into the final game, I want to talk about a platinum I unfortunately had to drop. I originally wanted to cover another Star Wars game for this video, but as time and my levels of joy started to dwindle, I had to get my priorities straight and make the best decision to get this video out on time. That game would have been Star Wars: The Clone Wars Republic Heroes. The Clone Wars is a sweet spot for me when it comes to Star Wars content. I grew up with the show, and I'm grateful for my parents who got me so many Lego sets, action figures, comics, and video games. My mom got me Republic Heroes for my 9th birthday, and I remember having a ton of fun with the game back then. It was the only game I played for a couple of weeks, and this was one of the first games I unlocked trophies for on my account. Playing it now, those rose-tinted glasses went flying off my face fast. This should have been a slam dunk in terms of Clone Wars video games. All the voice actors from the show are here, the environments and music are pulled straight from the show, and it was just fun slicing and dicing droids as Anakin, Kit Fisto, and Ayla Secura, or gunning them down as a clone trooper. Republic Heroes has been dubbed by many gamers as one of the worst Star Wars games, and after spending about 5 hours with it, I can understand why. I don't know if I would 100% agree, but I wouldn't argue with anyone about it. I have a lot of thoughts on this game that could be an entire video in and of itself, but the gist of my complaints is, the game feels very bloated with 40 missions, there's a lot of jumping back and forth between different plot threads, the AI in this game is incredibly stupid, and worst of all, the platforming sucks giant bantha balls. God, it is horrendous. Things are not that bad in the beginning, but when the latter missions rely on it so heavily, fear soon led to anger, anger soon led to hate, and hate led to suffering. As far as the trophies go, I completed 58% of the list, so I thought it would be straightforward from there, but that was not the case. The reason I was stressing out so much was because of one trophy where I had to get a combined best time for all missions in under 200 minutes. I've never really attempted a speedrunning trophy before, and I thought it would be manageable on my first run, but I obviously did not prepare enough, going an hour over the time I needed. I was going to have to play through this game a couple more times for some co-op trophies, but I just found myself not having fun. Even if I was not going for the trophies, which certainly increased my level of frustration, playing it now left me disappointed. My life is pretty hectic right now, and I did not want to spend the little time I had in the day playing a game that was actively turning me into a Sith Lord. It was hard putting this game down, but it was ultimately the best thing to do. Maybe I'll revisit this one day, but for now, let's move on to the final game I want to cover for this video. One of the biggest surprises to come out of 2024 was a remastered port of the original Battlefront games. Like many of you out there, the Battlefront games were an essential part of my childhood. While this may have seemed like an unnecessary purchase since I already own these games on Steam, I thought I would give it a fair shake on my PS5 and earn some trophies along the way. What I was not expecting was the slew of negativity the game received at launch. While I think the state of the servers at the time of launch was completely unacceptable, I did not have a bad experience with this game myself. Multiplayer was never the big draw to me, and other than a couple of matches I played in the first week, most of my time has been spent solo. It might just be a me thing, but I don't really understand all the hate Battlefront Classic Collection is getting. I've had nothing but fun the whole time, but I am curious to hear about your experience. Good or bad, make sure to leave a comment down below. Starting with the OG Battlefront, there are not too many trophies for this particular game. I also don't have as much nostalgia for this entry as I do for its sequel since I was very young when the first game came out. I started with some instant action to get a feel for the controls, and something dawned on me. Adaptive triggers had to go. I get that it makes the experience feel more realistic, but it was just too much here. After a couple of matches, I stepped into the Clone Wars campaign, which began during the Battle of Naboo. Something I enjoy about games like this is when they include clips from the movies to serve as cutscenes. It may seem lazy to some, but there's a charm to them that I can't quite explain. However, it immediately got sidelined when that iconic loading sound wasn't what I remembered. Good thing it's been patched though. Over the next hour or so, I fought in some iconic battles set during the prequels. There was also some new battles like the Uprise of Kamino and the Battle of Renvar, which ended this campaign. The next one was the Galactic Civil War, spanning the original 3 movies. Starting as the Empire in the Dune Sea, this campaign takes us through the iconic battles of Yavin 4, Hoth, and Endor, along with some small skirmishes on Bespin and Mos Eisley. A little longer than the Clone Wars campaign, but not by much. During this campaign, I took down an AT-AT with tow cables. I tried relying on my AI partner to shoot the tow cable, but between his terrible accuracy and my incompetent flying, we had to switch things up before I was able to get the trophy. There was only one more trophy left for the original Battlefront, which was knocking a Jedi hero off the map. The most common map to do this on was Bespin, but I did try to do it on Kamino as well. This should have been a straightforward trophy, but when I and a lot of people did this, it was very buggy. As you can see, I knocked Mace Windu off the map once, and nothing. I did it a second time, and still nothing. At this point, I figured it was the map, so I switched over to Bespin, and the same issue persisted. I knew it would pop eventually, so I kept knocking Mace off the map, and even then, I had to wait a good 20 seconds until the trophy actually popped. While I didn't spend as much time with the original Battlefront, it was a nice trip down memory lane. I was only 3 years old when this came out, so I don't have too strong of a connection to this one. There are some distinct memories of blowing myself off Kamino, getting eaten by a Sarlacc, blasting away at Gungans on Naboo, or fighting alongside Ewoks on Endor. While I wish this game could have had some quality of life improvements, I had nothing but fun reliving the beginning of a groundbreaking gaming franchise. Now this is where the fun begins. I cannot express how much nostalgia Battlefront 2 holds for me. I'll never forget the night my dad brought this home and we both played on the Coruscant map for the first time. A lot of my formative memories revolve around playing this game in split screen with childhood friends or against the computer. In terms of the trophy list, most are going to come from this game, and while it was nothing crazy by any means, it was pretty time consuming. Let's start with the simplest trophy here, which is for completing Rise of the Galactic Empire. Taking control of a clone trooper from their inception, we played through many iconic battles, beginning with the Battle of Geonosis and ending with the Battle of Hoth, with plenty of smaller battles taking place in between. This is only my second time playing through the campaign fully, and I had a blast fighting Acklays on Felucia, putting an end to the Jedi Order during the Nightfall Protocol, playing as Boba Fett during the Clone Uprising on Kamino, invading the Tantive 4 as Vader, and watching my brothers hilariously plummet to their demise on the Death Star. I also got plenty of medals, but I will get to that in a moment. Over the course of a few nights, I played through the campaign and enjoyed it every step of the way. Now for the more tedious part of this platinum journey. All the remaining trophies I needed for Battlefront 2 revolved around medals. This is a system I never paid attention to until now, and even when I was popping these trophies, I still had no idea what I was unlocking. After completing the campaign, I looked into this system some more and set up a game plan for the remaining trophies. For every class in the game, there are specific medals that can be earned after completing a requirement. When I started doing these, there wasn't a guide on PSN profiles, so I hopped to the other side of this so-called console war where True Achievements had some tips posted. If I went to my career stats, it also tells me what I needed to do there. While I earned some of these during the campaign, I want to talk about the classes that I usually spend the least amount of time with. The first one would be the heavy weapons class, who have demolition medals. For these medals, I had to get 4 critical hits on vehicles with the rocket launcher. I wanted to achieve this naturally in the beginning, but for demolition these were tricky to do, so I was quick to look for a method to knock these out. With reinforcements set to 0, Hoth was going to be my best bet. AT-ATs have a weak spot on their necks, and with no reinforcements to control them or gun me down, I unloaded 4 shots into their neck, unlocking my first demolition medal and trophy. After a medal is earned, this unlocks a powerful version of that weapon, which in this case is remote-controlled rockets. This is something I never explored when I originally played Battlefront 2, so it was interesting learning more about this mechanic. There are also different tiers. There's Veteran, which is earned after getting 4 medals, Elite at 32, and Legendary at 64. Once you reach the Elite tier, medal requirements are scaled down, making the trek to Legendary less tedious. Once you reach Legendary, that perk for achieving a medal is unlocked permanently, making it a great incentive to earn them if you want to become an unstoppable force in the battlefield. For Demolition, I kept doing the same method, eventually reaching Veteran Demolition status. But it was after this when I thought I ran into a glitch. I was working on a couple of other medals, but I never let the match finish. After getting the trophy I needed, I quit the game, but in the menu it was not tracking properly. I thought I ran into another bug, but I'm guessing the game just did not save the medals I earned after quitting. It didn't set me back too much, so I started putting a timer on to finish the match automatically, giving me the medals I earned in the game. Another tip I saw was that I had to wait 30 seconds before respawning for the medals to count consecutively, but I didn't find that necessary. Unless you're worried about your KD ratio, respawning a couple of times allowed me to earn another medal right off the bat. With all this in mind, I reached Elite Demolition status, reducing the number of critical hits needed from 4 to 3, making the next 32 medals faster to get through. Before moving on, major props to the devs for letting us track these in the trophy menu. I could not express how much of a lifesaver this feature is. Next was the sniper class, where I had to get 6 kills with headshots. This was another set of medals I tried to do naturally, and I did get my first marksman medal this way. I stuck it out for a few matches, but eventually cheesed these medals also. With reinforcement set to 0 again, I started a split screen match on Megiddo where the spawn points are more predictable. As the sniper class, I performed headshots on the second player and repeated the cycle until I reached veteran marksman status, elite, and with the number of headshots reduced from 6 to 4, I eventually reached legendary. These were the 2 classes I knew I was going to struggle with, so with those out of the way, I can circle back to some of the earlier medals I worked on. The very first medal and trophy I earned for the game came from the Endurance medals. Endurance, Guardian, and War Hero medals all center around points, and if I'm correct, you primarily get them from capturing command posts and killing enemies. I'm sure there's probably more, but these are the primary ways that come to my mind. For my first endurance medal, I earned it very quickly during the tutorial after getting 12 points in 1 life. About a minute later, I earned 24 points, giving me my first Guardian medal. And a couple minutes after that, I got 36 points, giving me a War Hero medal.
Those spider walkers are tearing us to ribbons.
As I played through the campaign, I soon reached veteran status for endurance, Guardian, and War Hero.
Well done, pilot.
I did manage to reach elite endurance status before finishing the campaign, reducing the number of points needed for a medal from 12 to 9. At this point in the game, it would be some time before getting the rest of these medals, War Hero especially. As I went through the grind of getting other medals, I finally reached Elite Guardian status, which reduced the number of points needed from 24 to 18. Shortly after that, I reached Legendary Endurance status, giving me an energy regen bonus. When I was working on my demolition medals, this is when I reached Elite War Hero status, dropping the number of points needed from 36 to 27. Legendary Guardian status was unlocked sometime when I was working on my marksman medals, and this gave me a permanent damage reduction bonus. Reaching Legendary War Hero status was going to be one of the final trophies I unlocked in the game, so I will come back to this one later. Before getting back to the class-related medals, I should talk about the game's ranking system. After earning a certain number of medals, this ranks you up. As far as I know, this doesn't affect anything gameplay-wise. It just gives you a fancy new title on your career profile. You start as a private and rank up to sergeant after earning 20 medals, which I got fairly early into the campaign.
Let's protect the Wookiee base.
I reached the rank of captain sometime after the campaign, which was unlocked after earning 100 medals.
Hold on, I need to fix that vehicle.
And general after earning 300 medals. Engineer is who I'm going to be talking about next, as they can slice into enemy vehicles with their fusion cutters. In all the years I played this game, I never knew you could do this, so it was exciting learning about something new. However, my first technician medal was not unlocked by doing this. So I'm not sure if there was another way to earn these medals, but slicing into vehicles is what I stuck with to reach veteran technician status. This was another one of those trophies I wanted to do naturally, but after unlocking all the marksman medals, I figured I would work on these in split screen. I did these on a couple of maps that had vehicles, eventually reaching elite technician status, which is when I booted up Endor. Now, I don't know if it was the perk for hitting elite or the vehicle I was slicing, but I did not have to wait as long for speeder bikes, which made reaching legendary status a breeze. While I am talking about the engineer class, there's another set of medals they can earn from killing 8 enemies with a shotgun. Throughout the campaign, I messed around with this class at times when I wanted to get up close and personal. I got my first and veteran regulator medals throughout the campaign, and I'm quickly gonna swap over to the soldier class because there was a lot of swapping back and forth between these two classes at a certain point in my journey. Every class except for the engineer comes with a blaster rifle as their secondary weapon, which is used to earn gunslinger medals. Like most trophies at this point, I got my first gunslinger medal during the campaign after killing 6 enemies with my blaster pistol. As I was working on my marksman medals, I also got the veteran gunslinger medal. Focusing on the soldier class, they come with frenzy medals, which are earned after killing 12 enemies with a blaster rifle. This was my main class, so these came pretty easy, which is why I saved them for last. As to be expected, I got my first and veteran medals during the campaign, and worked on the rest in tandem with Gunslinger, Regulator, and a few more War Hero medals. With these being some of the final trophies I needed, I set up instant action matches on maps that I haven't played that much of with the max number of reinforcements and teammates. Putting in the invincibility cheat code, which is muscle memory at this point, I spent the next hour and a half racking up kills and getting medals in the process. I eventually reached Elite Frenzy status, reducing the number of kills needed from 12 to 9. A few seconds later, I reached Elite Gunslinger status, so I only needed 4 kills for future medals. In the midst of all this, I would switch to the Engineer class where I soon reached Elite Regulator status, and the number of kills dropped from 8 to 6. With the Legendary status being the only trophies I needed at this point, I booted up a couple of maps that were a bit smaller so I could hopefully earn these medals much faster. As I was racking up kills, I was also getting a fair amount of points, soon reaching the Legendary War Hero status, increasing my damage bonus. The Death Star is where we end this Platinum journey. In all the chaos that took place in tight hallways and open hangars, I eventually reached a Legendary status for Gunslinger, shortly followed by Frenzy, and Regulator, ending my Platinum journey for the Battlefront Classic Collection. After 105 trophies and upwards of 30 hours, 3 Platinum trophies have been unlocked for some stellar Star Wars games. I'm not gonna lie, these last few days have been pretty stressful, but I'm happy with how things turned out here. I got to experience some new Star Wars content with Dark Forces and Racer, while getting a nice hit of nostalgia with the Battlefront games. I had fun playing through each of these games and look forward to getting Platinums and other Star Wars games in the future. To make things even sweeter, the Battlefront Classic Collection was my 66th Platinum, which was a complete coincidence. Palpatine would be proud though. There are a few Star Wars games that I haven't gotten to just yet, so be on the lookout for those. And if you guys want more Star Wars content from me, I have plenty of videos you can all check out if you're interested. That does it for the video. Thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed. What's your favorite Star Wars game? Make sure to leave a comment down below. Please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. May the Force be with you.